The economy grew at a record pace in the third quarter of 2020, including 7.4% over the prior quarter and at a 33.1% annual rate, recovering about two-thirds of the ground it lost earlier in the coronavirus pandemic. Gross domestic product jumped as pent-up consumer demand and breathtaking levels of government support helped increase spending after disruptions related to COVID-19 eased. The increase in growth, the biggest jump in records dating to at least 1947, followed a record decline earlier in the year when the virus disrupted business activity around the world and at home. Gross domestic product, or GDP, is the measure of the entire market value of all the goods and services produced in a specific time period, typically measured quarterly or annually. In short, GDP is the value of all goods and services produced across the economy. GDP is probably the most common indicator used to track the health of a nation's economy. The calculation of a country's GDP takes into consideration a number of different factors about that country's economy, including its consumption and investment. GDP is perhaps the most widely watched and important economic indicator for both economists and investors. Under the United States Department of Commerce, the Bureau of Economic Analysis is responsible for calculating the national accounts in the United States. They keep track of all of the data used to calculate GDP and assess the health of the U.S. economy. What goes into the measurement of GDP? There are 5 broad categories: personal consumption, government spending, gross private investment, exports, and imports. First, personal consumption is by far the biggest factor in GDP. These personal expenditures fall under numerous categories: durable and non-durable goods and services. Examples include food, rent, jewelry, gasoline, and medical expenses, iPhones, computers, you name it. If you as a consumer buy it, it's personal consumption. Number 2, government spending is the sum of government expenditures on final goods and services. It includes salaries of public servants, purchases of weapons for the military, and any investment expenditure by a government. Gross private investment includes, for instance, business investment in equipment such as construction of a new mine, purchases of software, or purchases of machinery and equipment for a factory. And lastly, exports add to the U.S. GDP while imports subtract from the U.S. GDP. In sum, GDP is the value of all goods and services produced across the economy and is used by the government and private industry alike to assess the overall health of the U.S. economy. And now you know.